All aboard. It's another edition of 310 to Left. I'm Caron from Nesson, along with Alex Speier of the Boston Globe, and the Red Sox having an off day. Last one for a couple of weeks as they come home now. Losers of 4 out of 5 on the recently completed road trip. Alex, they had been really good on the road, but they ran into a couple of really good teams. Minnesota playing really good baseball right now, and the Braves are just a good team. No getting around it.
Yeah, it's this is the test, right? Like it's important, critical for the Red Sox if they're going to defy expectations to wipe out teams that are kind of lesser teams in baseball, right? Which they've done a really good job of. They beat up on the Angels and they beat up on the A's and they beat up on the Giants. But it is a different degree of difficulty when you're facing a team like Atlanta, like Minnesota, when as hot as they've been. So yeah, the Red Sox are being tested in a different way, and thus far, we're still waiting for them to prove that they can hold their own against the best teams in baseball.
As of right now, they are 7-15 against teams with winning records, and 12-3 against teams that are 500 or lower. And I guess the good news is the Washington Nationals are right at 500, and that's who you open up with. But there's a place in the game for the middle class, isn't there? I mean, if you can win the vast majority of your games against the teams below you, and try to win an occasional game against the teams above you, you're probably a little over 500, which in today's baseball means you're viable for a wild card spot.
And especially given the vastness of the middle this year, evaluators around baseball are talking about the how few teams there are that truly stand out as exceptional. Obviously, Atlanta has a special roster. Obviously, the Dodgers have a special roster. The Orioles, to me, remind me a lot of what the Astros looked like when they were making those steps forward, and that core was really coalescing into being a championship caliber group. But beyond that, there's a lot of mediocre in baseball, in baseball right now, or at least a very level playing field. I guess it's a pretty flat landscape. And so if you're able to kind of punch at your weight class, there are a lot of people in that same weight class where the Red Sox find themselves. And so it gives them an opportunity, again, if they take care of the games against, even if they struggle against the elite of the elite, and I don't think that this seems a bit extreme, it's going to balance out a little bit, but if they're able to hold their own against that vast middle, then they'll be in a pretty good spot, because that's a lot of teams in baseball.
All right, no surprise that Chris Sale was fired up and had a good game against his former team, but maybe a little surprised that he was that good. His first double-digit strikeout game as a member of the Braves. The slider was phenomenal. First 9 strikeouts came on the slider. Last one was on changeup. But he was really good. I said in the pregame show, and I'm sticking with it because I said in the pregame show that no matter what happened, even if he threw a no-hitter, I don't want to hear it was a horrible trade. I don't want to hear revisionist history from everybody who said it was a great move to get a young second baseman who's going to be part of this hopefully for a long time to come. And so I'll stand by that, even though he was really good. But we know, right, when healthy, Chris Sale is a good pitcher. You just don't know when he's healthy. And the Red Sox got somebody who we haven't seen much because he's been the injured guy in this equation, which you didn't expect in that trade. But let's talk about Chris Sale and Vaughn Grissom and how that all came to loggerheads last night.
Yeah, well, I think on the Sale front, you're absolutely right. Like, he looked spectacular. He's going to look spectacular. And the Braves care about what he's going to look like at very specific times, right? Like, they care about what he's going to look like as a member of their rotation in October. And so we still have the great unknown about whether or not he is going to. It's really good to see healthy Chris Sale, right? Like, it's a fun look. He's a special talent. The way that his body moves on the mound is unlike just about anyone you've ever seen, and it's kind of fun seeing him wearing number 51 in homage to Randy Johnson. Now, you do wait to see, since he was throwing so well yesterday. Okay, how's his body going to respond to an outing of higher adrenaline, and how many starts is he going to make over the course of this season? The fact that there is that uncertainty tells you a lot about why the Red Sox were okay making a trade that was geared more towards the longer term, and one whose results are going to be measured in part based on how the Red Sox pitching staff performs in 2024 without Chris Sale. So far, the answer has been surprisingly well, actually extraordinarily well under the circumstances. But then the other part is, what's Vaughn Grissom going to look like, not just as he makes his transition. And again, this is a hard thing for Vaughn Grissom to have jumped onto the treadmill at full speed, coming off of an injury and coming off of very few at-bats over the course of his build-up for the season. So what's he going to look like as 2024 progresses and then well beyond? I think you're right. The logic of the trade is pretty sound. I think regardless of how Chris Sale ends up performing over the course of this year.
I'm very early, but noteworthy that I think Grissom has looked pretty good defensively at second base, right? And that's an important part of this whole equation. We believe the bat will play. Everyone thought that. If he can be adequate or a little better at second base, he can be a really good player for this team.
Yeah, and it can stabilize the Red Sox middle infield. Again, you're kind of looking onto a time horizon that extends beyond the 2024 season. But think about the options that opens up if you have Trevor Story. If Trevor Story can get healthy for 2025, and then you have Vaughn Grissom on the opposite side, instead of constantly having a revolving door at those positions and kind of scrambling. And of course, you also have Marcelo Meyer on the horizon as a guy who is very important in the Red Sox long-term planning. But I agree with you. I think that Grissom has been solid at second base, which is for the Red Sox that represents a win, because there have been significant defensive questions that accompanied his arrival in Boston.
Nick Pivetta returns. A strange turn of events in that first inning. Thought he was out of it with the double play. About 3.5 minutes later, it's overturned. You got to get back out there before you can catch your breath. Ozuna does what he does, a 3-run home run, and the horse is out of the barn. What did you make of Pivetta's return? Wouldn't use that as an excuse, to his credit. Said he didn't like the feel of his sweeper or his four-seamer last night. But again, first time back, just his third start of the year. What'd you make of Pivetta?
Yeah, first of all, I think that it's interesting you went horse out of the barn instead of train out of the station. I thought that we were going with a very, with a very locomotive theme in the course of our celebration of 310, but whatever. However, I thought that the thing that was encouraging about Pivetta with the fastball was that it showed good velocity, right? It was better than it was in some of these starts in early April. So you want to see Nick Pivetta throwing pretty hard. His fastball, his four-seam fastball, it benefits a lot from the carry and from the shape on it, the way that it has that special ride. But it needs velocity. It needs that mid to up. It needs that 95 to 97 rather than kind of sitting in the 92 to 93 range. And he was sitting at 95, so that's good. That means there's arm strength. The command was off, which is oftentimes a product of rust. As you said, there were no excuses that he made for it, but you would expect to see some of those fastballs that were kind of going into the middle third of the zone, which is not a good place to be pitching against the Atlanta lineup. You would like to see those kind of getting into the upper third of the zone and then just above it. And so I think that what you're looking for now is, does the command get progressively better as Nick Pivetta makes his next start? If so, then you're in a good spot. If it takes a little while for the command to come back, then that's not as great. But the arm strength was probably the most important indicator for his health thus far.
Pitching has been surprisingly good, right? Lowest ERA in baseball. We've been talking about that, the Bailey effect. We had Andrew Bailey on the other day. But now you're getting healthier. You get Pivetta back. Garrett Whitlock is making strides in the right direction, which is good, because a week and a half ago it was sounding like it wasn't happening as fast as they had hoped. So now he's going to throw to hitters if all goes according to plan at Fenway on Friday. But before that, Brian Bayo will be ready to return. Looks like he will start as soon as Sunday against Washington. You were in Portland to watch him on the rehab. The numbers didn't look real good, but you got to see him in person. What'd you see and what'd you hear from Brian Bayo?
Comparable to Pivetta in some ways, because the arm strength was good. He was working at 95 to 97 with the sinker. And when he's in that range, that's a good spot for Brian Bayo. That means, again, he's able to reach back. He's pain-free while he's able to throw at kind of the effort level that he's going to be trying to sustain in big league games. The location of the fastball wasn't great. The slider, it was the fastball and the slider that got hit at times. He did have a couple of decent swing and miss sliders. I don't think he had any swing and miss on the fastball. Of course, it's a contact pitch, but he's going to need to sharpen the command on that pitch in order for it to be effective. The changeup was in his pocket and looked really, really good. That is always going to be a plus offering. It pairs so well with the sinker. So yeah, it's a matter of him now. The arm strength is there, the health is there. Now he just has to again refine his locations.
And again, it looks like Sunday, or with the day off, they could move that around. But that seems to be the plan. TBA as of Wednesday night for who would pitch on Sunday. While you're in Portland, you also got to see that amazing group of young players coming together. And one of them is joining us as this week's guest. Roman Anthony has just shot up the list of prospects over the last year and a half. Got his first taste of Double A at the end of last season. Now starts with the Sea Dogs. Roommates with Marcelo Meyer. So by all accounts, the top two prospects in the organization playing together, rooming together, and working their way up together. So without further ado, let's get to it. Here's Roman Anthony, our guest on this week's 310 to Left. Joining us from Portland, Maine, one of the top prospects, not just for the Red Sox, but in the game of baseball, it's Roman Anthony. Roman, thanks for joining us this morning. We appreciate the visit.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me. I appreciate you guys having me on. This is awesome.
Talking to some people in the front office about having you on today, and this is the quote I got from someone, all right? He's kind of uninteresting. He said, and then he went on to say, in a very good way, because he's a guy who understands the work that needs to go into getting better. He's willing to listen to what he needs to work on, and he gets right to it. He goes, I wish all of our prospects came in with that attitude. When you hear that from a front office, what does that mean to you when you hear that the work you put in, the attitude you've brought is being recognized already?
Well, first of all, I'm not going to name drop it. I got a feeling I know who said that. But anyway.
We'll give you the last word.
Yeah.
We'll give you the final word on him later, all right? We'll get back to that.
All right. No, I mean, it's great. I think it's true, as funny as it is. But yeah, I guess, I mean, I'm pretty interesting more than they think, but no, it's good to hear. I mean, I just try to go about my business every day and kind of remain with the same attitude and carry myself the same way every single day. So I think that might make me a little bit uninteresting, but I guess it's just
and
the
that
way
is
I
no,
am.
but that to be clear, that's what he meant. We went back and forth. He was joking. He goes, no, I mean from a baseball sense, like normally I would tell you, this guy's got to figure this out, or this guy's got to work on this, or the attitude is, he's like, he really sort of checks all the boxes in a prospect. He's a guy who understands what the future can be, but he understands there's a lot of work between here and there. You're still early at this, but you've come in with an attitude and a maturity, I think, that is far beyond the years of what a lot of people have seen. Where did that come from? How has that shaped who you are as a young man, as a young baseball player?
Yeah, I think just credit to my parents, my family, and the people that I've grown up around and that's raised me and shown me the game. Luckily, I was, my parents had to work throughout high school and college, so they didn't really have much of a sports background. So I was fortunate enough to play a bunch of different sports growing up and to be surrounded by, great coaches who understand the game very well. And one coach in particular, Todd Fitzgerald, who I was my high school coach and my travel ball coach growing up. He had been around so many guys who have had such great careers in the big leagues and such a great program down in South Florida. And I think he's kind of built that into me at such a young age, along with my parents and all the other people I've surrounded myself with. So I think that has helped me a ton coming into this game and being somewhat of the young guy in these clubhouses and still being able to mesh together with the guys and fit in.
Yeah, I was regarding the youth. So you're 19. You're going to be turning 20 next week, but that's kind of like mind blowing. You're the youngest player from the draft to be in Portland in decades, and I think that you've probably never stepped foot on a field in a professional baseball game with someone who's younger than you. Do you ever take stock of that? What does it mean to be competing at this level at the in professional baseball as the youngest guy on the field almost every day?
Yeah, it never really hits me unless somebody like asks, and I don't really think about it a whole lot. Because to me, it's regardless of what level I was at last year or this year, to me, it feels like the same game. Even playing in, those big league spring training games and playing with guys who may be a whole lot older than me. To me, it still feels the same. It feels like because it is the same game in the end of the day. It's just a kid's game, and I have so much fun doing it, and it's what I love to do. So for me, it doesn't really hit me. Like age doesn't really hit me that much, and it helps being in a great organization with a great group of guys who are all super welcoming and again, they don't really even notice it either. Like nobody ever really talks about it a whole lot. Other than the fact that my birthday's coming up here soon, so it's kind of hitting a couple of guys. But other than that, like I said, it's just to me, it's the same game, regardless of what level I'm at, and I love doing it. I love playing it, and so no, I don't really ever think about the fact that I am probably the youngest guy every time I take the field.
Well, so stepping back though, like we've talked about your maturity, the fact that you are young for you're young for what you're doing. Maintaining perspective on some of the struggles can be tricky for anyone. So I was thinking about this in the context of about this time a year ago. You were putting up numbers like production numbers that weren't like that wouldn't have jumped off the page, right? Like I think you were hitting like in the 220s or 230s in Salem. Like there are reasons for that. It's a huge park. You can barrel balls, and they're going to be long outs and probably not even reach the warning track. That might be a home run in any other park. You had really nice on base numbers. The slug hadn't come, and I was thinking about this in the context of Mookie Betts, who about 11 years ago he was in Greenville, and that at the time that was single A, right? Like that was what
Yeah,
Salem is now, and
yeah,
he was
yeah, yeah.
hitting
They
a buck.
swapped.
Yeah, and so at that point in 2013, like he was in his first year of full season ball. He was hitting like a buck 50, buck 75, and with a 350 OBP, low slug. But he was convinced that he was terrible, even though like he didn't have access to things like hard hit rate and that sort of thing. So he was getting ready to quit baseball and pursue a basketball career and go to college to pursue a basketball career. Like he was convinced he was not a good player. You tell me, like when you don't have those kind of high level offensive numbers, were you like, did you still feel really good in terms of your approach? Are you able to separate like batting average and OBP and slug from what you're doing, like how your performance is going, or do you get caught up in that?
Yeah, I think. Well, first of all, it's probably a good thing Mookie didn't quit, because he's done well for himself.
He's done
But
okay.
no,
Yeah,
I
he's
think
all
it was a
right.
good
Worked
yeah,
career
out.
I
choice.
think, yeah,
But
yeah, it worked
he'd
out.
probably be
I
the best basketball player in the NBA if he had gone that way, right? I mean, that's who he is,
I, I
right?
don't I don't I don't doubt it. Um, but yeah, no, I think it was probably more difficult at his time coming up because I think now we have so much on everything, like on the analytics side of things, and we have so much data. That shows you that hey, like when stuff's not going your way, you're doing everything right, and you're still everything is like there's nothing that's alarming, and you're still hitting the ball hard, still taking your walks, having good at bats, scoring runs, right? So that's really the goal in the end of the day is all those stats that are going to help the team win. And yeah, it can be frustrating at times, like um, when you're doing really well and you're not getting rewarded. But like I said, they know that, and they showed that last year with me and Loe. So it's great to know, and it just kind of takes that stress off of yourself. And so just going out there and knowing that if you have quality at bats and if you hit the ball hard and you take your walks, regardless of what the scoreboard says, because none of us and none of them are really worried about that. That's you're going to get rewarded. So yeah, it can be frustrating because sometimes it's just nice to see a ball fall here and there when things aren't going your way. But they do such a good job of staying on top of us and making sure that we're not worried about that. So the answer is, to be honest, no, I'm not too worried about things like that when things don't go my way because it all evens out in the end of the day.
Do
Yeah.
you care? What do you care about? Like from a statistical standpoint, if you're like, if you're evaluating, like, am I having good at bats? What do you like to check on?
Yeah, I just the main thing I look at is making sure I'm swinging at good pitches, making sure all my stuff is that I do damage on is looking the same. That I'm swinging at pitches that I can do damage on, and then I'm taking my walk still, and not trying to do too much, and that I'm hitting the ball hard. Because in the end of the day, hit the ball hard, take your walks, find ways to get on. That's how you find ways to score and help the team win. And that's, what our organization values a lot. So for me, it's just making sure I'm still swinging at the right pitches, getting good pitches to hit and not missing those and hitting the ball hard. And like I said, taking my walks.
each level, each promotion comes with more challenges, right? You're going to see more complete pitchers. You're going to see guys with nastier stuff. You got the 10 games or whatever it was at the end last year with Portland. What did that do for you coming into this year? And what have the adjustments been like? What's been the biggest challenge, the biggest adjustment to make at the AA level?
Yeah, it was huge. Getting those 10 games last year, I think it was awesome. You know, I was super excited to go there and then, finish the year there. But looking back at it, it was a huge help to just, know what I was getting coming into this year and being able to prepare for what was to come this year. It was huge. Just outside of baseball, the living, the clubhouse, getting used to, the people here. Even though I didn't spend much time here, like all that is a huge help, more than people probably think outside of the lines. And then, like I mentioned earlier, the baseball side of it, I feel like it's the same game. It's not a whole lot different than any of the other levels, I thought. Obviously, it's better at each level. Guys are older, guys are more physical. That was my first takeaway. Just because guys are a lot older and stronger and have been around the game a little bit longer than guys maybe in low A and in single A. But other than that, to me, it wasn't anything drastic. I thought I came in and did pretty well and adjusted to it well. And I think, credit to the guys and the coaching staff here. Like, they're all super welcoming and they all took me in with open arms last year. And I think going into spring training, that was huge to kind of know the group and prepare with the group that I was coming in with. And we have such a great group here that it's so fun playing baseball here right now. So I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, let's talk about that group a little bit because it is a special group of prospects, right? Marcelo Meyer and Kyle Teal and Nick York and Blaze Jordan. We can go on and on. What's that like being around? I mean, the baseball IQ of those guys is off the chart. And what's that meant to you to be able to spend time with those guys, to learn from those guys, to be part of a group that has such incredible expectations?
Yeah, it's amazing. I think it starts at spring training. You come in with all the guys and our organization does a great job of pairing everybody together. And towards the end, you pretty much have an idea of who you're going off with. So it's amazing. We spent a lot of time together at spring training. And, not just the three of us or the four of us, it's all of us and all the guys in this clubhouse. We're all so close. We hang around after the games, before games, we get there early and sit around and talk. And we're also open with each other. We're constantly doing things, getting lunch, getting dinner, whatever it is. We're literally always together. So it's awesome. It makes the game slow down so much, and it makes the game that much easier when, you're taking the field with a group of guys that you really are super close with and love to play with and love being around. And it just makes, winning that much more fun, when you're winning with a group of guys who you hope to win with for a while. And so I've got nothing but positive things to say. It's such a great group. From the coaching staff to medical all the way down, it's been amazing so far. And I think I could speak for everyone when I say we're just having a blast playing baseball right now.
One of the things that's really interesting about your group is that you guys do have this like sense of collective purpose, right? Like you guys do enjoy winning a lot together. At the same time, I think that one of the things that pushes you is that you have a really talented group and you guys are competitive, right? So you guys are also able to push each other on an individual basis. How does the competition manifest itself? Like in what, what does day-to-day competition in training look like for you guys?
Yeah, I think just everything we do, like it's a little bit different for me, Marcelo, and Kyle because we all play different positions. But I think just the group as a whole, whether it's the BP groups, the infield groups, outfield groups, like we're always doing something where you can make it competitive. And I think it's great when you have a group of guys that, kind of have that like friendly competitiveness and make it a competitive environment in practice and, hold each other accountable constantly. Like we have a group of guys that just are constantly holding each other accountable and then always pushing each other to get better and better. And we just feed off each other. We build off each other. We constantly talk about, different things and how the game went and adjustments we could make. So again, it's just amazing when you have a group of guys who are constantly willing to show up to the field every day and push each other and hold each other accountable and make each other better every day, because it truly does make, you know, each of us better, and it makes winning easier almost in a sense when you push each other in practice. And um, sometimes in the minor leagues it can, that winning feeling and that togetherness can be lost sometimes because people are just trying to constantly develop and move up. But I think we have a group of guys here who are so present and so stuck on getting better here where we are now and winning here, that it just makes it a lot more fun and it makes everyone better.
They say surround yourself with people who are going to help you be your best, right? You've kind of always done that. You spent time in what is becoming the legendary Holiday Baseball Academy, I guess we'll call it, right? With Matt and
Yeah.
obviously Jackson and Ethan. What was that experience like, and what's it been like watching Jackson Holiday's, 6-8 months older than you, sort of shoot out to the success he's had? But take us into that cage a little bit. What is that like?
Yeah, it's amazing. I've known those guys for quite a while now. With Jackson growing up in Jupiter, close to myself, always playing around in the same area as me and playing him in summer ball and travel ball, whatever it may be. Like, we were always friendly, and then we just got super close. You know, during like our senior year. And then towards the end of that, we both ended up getting drafted and worked something out, and had a couple mutual buddies who were at Oklahoma State. And I went out there my first off season after that first short stint I had, and we became super close, and I spent a ton of time out there. And then ended up going back last year, or this past off season again, and Jackson's come out to Jupiter a couple times. It's an amazing family. You know, I'm lucky enough to still be able to talk to Matt here and there, and just ask Matt some questions when I have questions. And he checks in a lot, and the whole family is just, I can't say enough good things about them. And I've spent a ton of time with them now out there in Oklahoma, and it's been nothing but great. And I give those guys so much credit out there for a lot of my success, and you know giving me such a great resource in the off season. So credit to them. And Jackson and we're just great friends. We're super close, and I think we're super similar. And again, it's another guy who is great to go out and work with in kind of a competitive environment where we just constantly get each other better.
Roman, it's really interesting to take stock of the places where you've been playing thus far in both Greenville and now in Maine. You have a big left field wall to shoot for that's pretty close to home plate. I'm curious, how much does that shape your approach? How much do you think? And it was interesting because I saw you a couple of days ago. You ripped a ball at 108 down the line and showed some good wheels. You got into third for a triple. That was good. But yeah, I'm curious. Where do you see your best offensive approach? Do you think that you're going to be all fields moving forward? Are you looking to kind of increase the degree to which you're pulling the ball and driving it to right?
Yeah, I think there's always things I can work on, and it's constantly a work in progress. For certain things. But to me, like, just knowing in the back of my mind that left field is so close and that you can kind of miss balls over there, like, it's always about being just a pure hitter and being a hitter at all fields. I think that's the best kind of hitter at Fenway Park. But yeah, as I continue to just grow and get stronger, and the organization knows that I'm going to run into more balls and to the pull side and to left field as well and to center field. So the biggest thing for me is just continuing to be a pure hitter at all fields, especially with that field and with the dimensions. It's a little bit different than everywhere else, but I could definitely use it to my advantage.
All right, so we got a couple questions here before we let you go about Portland. You got a little taste of it at the end of last year, and now you're up there this year. Have you become? We talked to Marcelo about this a couple times. The lobster roll can be your friend, but it can also get really expensive if you start crushing lobster rolls every day. Have you become a lobster roll aficionado in your time in Portland yet?
Not a whole lot. I think just because being from Jupiter and living in that area, there's so much fish down there where I live in the off season. So I try to just, be super balanced with it. And yeah, here and there I'll mix one in, but I'm not, I didn't get here and try it for the first time and suddenly have one every day, like I know some of the guys do. Um, but growing up around the water and then around fish, I think it's a little bit different for my situation. But yeah, I'll have one here and there.
And you and Marcelo are roommates, at least here at the beginning of the year. Give us some dirt now. What's he like as a roommate? You got to give us something here.
He's awesome. I mean, this is not my first time living with him. I lived with him a little bit in the off season, but he's just great to live with. I consider him one of my best friends, and we learn so much from each other. We come back from games and we just chat on the couch, and we've learned so much in this short time already living together. But aside from baseball, he's just a great guy to live with. He's a fun roommate, and it's enjoyable to be around. So um, it's been nothing but great stuff. I feel like it's just like living with a brother. So he's been awesome.
Yeah, he said that in spring training. He said you guys and you had that big group together down in Florida, and he was like, it's like living with your team. That you really are brothers, and you all are learning from each other, and it's just I'm sure it's a really cool experience up there. And we really appreciate the time you coming on, Roman. Continued success. You're doing great up there. We'll be tracking it and watching it closely, and we'll get back up there. We'll get Alex to buy everybody some lobster rolls. He doesn't know that yet, but we'll get him to
Sweet.
next time around. All right.
We're
Roman,
gonna
we
hold him. We're
appreciate the
gonna hold him
visit.
to that.
We're going to hold it to. See, and by the way, that was interesting. All right. I don't care what anybody says. That was an interesting conversation. All right. So we appreciate the time. Continued success. We'll do it again soon.
Thanks. Glad I was interesting. Take care.
Great conversation with Roman Anthony. Again, to be clear, the not interesting comment came from his baseball progression, right? And you've been watching him now for a couple of years, Alex. And I think, the point, what I keep hearing is the maturity, the finishing touches that are already there in his makeup. This isn't a prospect that has wild highs and wild lows. He is just steadily progressing, and there's no reason to think he can't. So what's the timetable now? Where does Roman Anthony go from here?
He's started to turn the corner in Portland. He started a little bit slow in April, but you're seeing the results kind of matching what had been happening in terms of the quality of contact, as we talked about. He's off to a great start to the month of May. It's kind of that 300, 400, 500 plus slash line across the board, where that's like, oh, that's a really good prospect. And so I think that it's very reasonable to think that there is, I think that by the summer, you would expect that sometime in the summer months, he would probably make his way up to AAA if everything continues on the path that he's been on. I think that the big leagues this season might be a little bit of a further reach, especially given that the Red Sox have been pretty happy with the outfield alignment that they've been able to roll out thus far. But it's also not out of the question that he or any of that prospect big three that's in Portland right now could be in the majors. A year ago at this time, I was in Portland when a struggling Cedar Rafaela looked about a million miles from the big leagues and was wondering about what's going on. And of course, by September, he was an everyday Red Sox outfielder. So, that path is possible for Roman Anthony. And but I would think that big league ETA is either this season or first half of next season.
This group, and we talked about it with him, right? There's so much talent in that group in Portland. Does this group need to spend a lot of time in AAA ultimately? Will there be a long stretch of Woo Sox time for this group of players, or will it be individual based on need? Like, how does this play out for them as a group?
I'm not sure how it's going to play out because because this is Craig Breslow's first year in the organization, and he probably has different thoughts about the timetable that's necessary in AAA than what we had seen in the past. That said, I thought that the Red Sox seemed like they were taking a somewhat deliberate approach with, for instance, Tristan Casas in AAA a couple of years ago, and at times with Jaron Duran. And then you did have a guy like Cedar Rafaela just kind of whistling through AAA in a matter of a couple of months. So I think that you would always like to have a really nice baseline of of performance, of adjustments against upper level pitching, particularly given how young they are. But some of that is driven by, but sometimes you just outperform the level, and sometimes guys don't need a lot of time. So that's all a very roundabout way of saying, don't know.
And that's why we bring you on the show each week, to give us that sort of the insight. We haven't quite gotten down the concept of taking a stance and screaming at each other. Someday we'll aspire to that greatness that we hope to be at. Listen, back to the big club, an interesting stretch, right? I mean, you've got 13 in a row, and the Washington Nationals come to town, and who knows what that means. But what we do know is after that, it's 4 with the Rays, and 7 of these 13 games are against the Tampa Bay Rays. And back to our conversation at the start of the show, if you're beating up on bad teams, I guess the referendum here is, are the Tampa Bay Rays a bad team? They're a 500 team as we speak. I'm not sure what they are. I didn't think they'd be, a lot of people thought they were just going to build on last year. I didn't think they'd be as good as they were last year, but I'm not sure they're a bad team. This is a really good opportunity for the Red Sox, who've only played 3 games in the American League East, and they lost them all to the Baltimore Orioles. If you're going to make any sort of headway in the AL East, these 7 games against the Tampa Bay Rays are going to be really important as a starting point.
How often have we heard Alex Cora talking in the last couple of years about beating the AL East and beating the AL East at home? Like this is a meaningful launching point for the Red Sox. Like all we've seen from them this year is the Orioles kind of handing it to them a little bit, but the Orioles, as we discussed a little bit earlier, are in a pretty special class of talent right now. The Rays are struggling. I'm with you. I don't think they're as bad as they've played. I don't think that like Randy Arozarena is going to be like a 500, 600 OPS guy over the course of a full season. I think that their offense is across the board way underperforming what their talent level should be, at least what we think it is thus far. But I do think that they're also probably prone to some inconsistency, and they're finding they're trying to find their own baseline. And so this is a kind of critical time for the Red Sox to be able to not let up and not let them find that baseline against them. The Red Sox need to be able to win some games in the AL East, and so this will be an interesting first test.
All right, and it all begins at Fenway Park. And again, to your point, not just against American League East, you got to win games at home, right? They were better on their last homestand. You've got to build on that. This has been a team with a losing record at Fenway Park going back to the beginning of last year. I was stunned in the first Friday night Fenway. Alex Cora actually admitted that he thinks his team over the last couple of years presses at home because the fans actually make the pressure. And as Jim Rice says all the time, you've got to use that and apply that pressure to the other team. They've got to win games at Fenway Park.
Yeah, you want to have a lineup that's able to take advantage of Fenway's dimension, and you want to have a pitching staff that knows how to perform there. We've seen it. Every one of the great Red Sox teams that we've seen has been dominant at home, and oftentimes, if you're able to combine that with being a 500 team on the road, then you have a team that coasts into the playoffs more often than not. And it's been a while since the Red Sox have just shown that ability to excel at home and to use that energy of the home ballpark as kind of wind in their sails. I guess I'm mixing my transportation metaphors again, but wind in the sails as opposed. We should get you with your captain's hat, by the way, but that's another story.
Oh yeah, which you gave me. That's still one of my one of the nicest housewarming gifts anyone's ever given me. The captain's hat for my boat. Yeah,
well, you're also steering the rudder of podcast land, so that's good too. But
so many analogies, so little time.
So. I guess so. Yes, we're being told like move along. But I think that, it is important for them to be able to find ways of winning at home on a consistent basis. And I think that we've seen hints of that, like the way that they're pitching, the way that they're using their home ballpark, because the strength of the Red Sox pitching staff hasn't been avoiding bats. It hasn't been strikeout rate. It's been avoiding damage. And they've done a really good job of executing in Fenway Park in a way to limit that.
All right, it all begins with Washington this weekend. Mother's Day on Sunday. Now, do you have to work? Do you get to take the away and do something nice for Alyssa? What do you do on Mother's Day?
Yeah, definitely go into hiding. I have to, we have to herd cats, or in this case, two sons, and make sure there's a special Mother's Day. So we like to we like to pursue lobster somewhere, and
Ooh.
we'll be chasing that and seeing if there are any reservations left for anywhere. How about you, Tom? Exciting day at the
Oh, I'm
ballpark.
working. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
working. But yeah, Kelly and the boys will be at the ballpark. We got them good seats, and Jack will come down from Vermont, so they'll get to have a nice little time, and then we'll get together and probably watch the Bruins Sunday night. I think it's the exact day she would plan out if I gave her any say at all. By the way, the best again, a second Jim Rice mention of the day, but. Jim Rice has the greatest. He and his wife have the greatest philosophy on Mother's Day. He gives her nothing. It's like, nope, the kid's got to do something for her, not me. She's not my mother. That's good for you. That would not go over well in the Caron household, I promise you.
Yeah. There are clear philosophical differences but we welcome all into the big tent.
That's right. All right. Good stuff. Great conversation with Roman Anthony. And, thanks for you sort of set that up when you were up in Portland. So that's great. We'll have to get more of those guys on because it really is a fascinating group to watch. But that's it. We are out of time. So we have covered it all. The current team, the future of the team, trains, planes, horses, sails, everything we need. Alex, we'll do it again next week.
I suppose so. We'll have to find a different mode of transportation. Look forward to it.
Yes, get on your bike. We'll get a bicycle built for two for next edition of 310 to Left. For Alex Speier, I'm Tom Caron. Thanks for catching us this time. We'll see you next time.